Hello, everyone. My name is John Newsom, and I'm a solutions engineer here at Claroty. So the purpose of this video is to walk through some of the features within the Claroty xDome platform that can help you on your network segmentation journey. So if we look at network segmentation through the lens of popular industry frameworks, the most common industry framework that speaks to this extensively is IEC 62443, where you hear about concepts around zones and conduits. So a zone essentially is the grouping of operational technology assets that have similar function and security requirements. And the conduit represents the communications path between zones. So let's talk about why this is important. So a number of reasons. For one, you want to control the flow of data in and out of a zone to maybe control or limit the lateral movement between zones to ensure that you're safeguarding against the data that's moving between those zones. Also, if you look at the trust boundary between OT and IT in this example, you want to make sure that data moving in and out of those environments between OT and IT are controlled, and that you're enforcing those trust boundaries to where only information that needs to go between those environments are shared. Everything else is contained to limit the potential blast radius of a threat, as an example. So if we look at this from the capabilities in the Clarity platform, foundationally, it's important to make sure that you have what we call uniform VLAN. So you're grouping common assets within a VLAN. We can certainly help with that. And from there, it's also all about moving up the stack to layer 3 and 4 to make sure that you are creating enforcement policies between these zones that make the most sense based on the functionality of the assets contained in those zones. And we can help with that as well. So let's first go over and let's look at what we call an actual VLAN matrix. So what this is essentially calling out, you'll see along the x-axis, there are a number of asset types across a number of categories. You see building management, control, general IoT, for example. If we scroll down to uh, VLANs that I would say represent a uniform VLANs, if we look at VLANs 121 through 125, you'll see that there are some building management components in this VLAN, but you'll also see that there's controllers, OT gateways, PLCs, version controllers, or vision controllers rather, and serial to Ethernet, as well as the firewall boundary. So these represent what I would call a uniform VLAN. So for example, if all of a sudden a PLC or a PC rather, and a laptop shows up on these uniform VLANs, you want to know about that. And not only can we give you the visualization here, we can alert on this with granular policy configurations that you can control in the platform. So if we go back to our VLANs configuration, if we go to the VLANs table, you'll see that uh, in this table, if we um, look at the VLANs that we were initially looking at in question, we go down to, let's look at VLAN 121 as an example. You can go in here and add manual rules so that here you can define what types of devices should be on this specific VLAN. So if I select category, I can say that this is only my OT assets, and I can create subcategories and say that this is only for my control devices, and maybe I can say process devices show up on that VLAN. Anything else that ends up on that VLAN that does not match these categories, as an example, would trigger an alert that you can go and remediate based on that. So this is first and foremost all about creating that baseline of a VLAN architecture that is uniform, and consider that VLAN to be similar to the concept of a zone within the IEC 62443 framework. Now let's talk about the control of the data between zones, right? And the concept of a conduit. So we also have the ability in the platform from an enforcement perspective to look at what we call ACL policies. So within the actual ACL policies, we have created a number of policies out of the box for you that you can use as a template to create your own policies. So within this, if you see the policy rules here, we click on the policy rules, you'll see that this particular set of policy rules are based on Rockwell automation OT device types, PLCs, for example. And these are the normal uh, protocols and ports that should be allowed when you're dealing with Rockwell automation assets. We also can give this to you in an actual ACL that you can apply to your upstream enforcement points. And you'll see that this is what we're calling out here. Now, you can use this as a baseline for creating your own organizational policy. So if I go to my organizational policies and let's pick on one that's already created here. Now you'll see here that I've got my policy rules that are actually in effect. Now, I can take these policy rules and I can apply that to what's actually been observed in the environment, the real traffic that's being observed, and seeing uh, if these policies were enforced, what the actual net effect would be of those policies if they were enforced. Now, we don't do the enforcement in the platform ourselves. We leverage integrations to help with the enforcement. So this is giving you a what if scenario to say, if this was enforced via an upstream enforcement point, think NAC, think firewall, for example, or an ACL on a switch, the traffic that you see highlighted in red would be blocked. So we wouldn't allow between a PLC and these other side B entities, we wouldn't allow this FTP or TLS, RDP, SMB v2, but we would allow the traffic that is consistent of Rockwell automation assets, ENIP and SIP would be allowed. We would not allow Modbus because that's not a protocol that Rockwell Automation uses. That's typically um, Snyder Electric, for example, that leverages Modbus as a protocol. So now that you understand the actual real-time traffic analysis that we're providing you here and how that lands against organizational policies that you can create. This can be used as the building blocks to create those policies on your upstream enforcement points. Now, if we go into the wealth of integrations that we have in the platform, you'll see in the supported integrations, there are a number of integrations we have with your NAC vendors that you see here. And we also have integrations with various firewall vendors as well that can do the enforcement. So I hope this video was helpful in giving you a clear understanding of some of the capabilities we have within the Claroty xDome platform to help you create or have a more comprehensive segmentation strategy for your OT environment. Thank you so much for watching.